Hey friends, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be looking at the Essie Off the Grid collection, which was inspired by earthy neutrals. And this was kindly sent to me from Beyond Polish, so I'll have some information in the description, but let's just get into the swatches. The first shade is Force of Nature, which is a deep forest green with yellow undertones. So you probably know I'm not the biggest fan of yellow-leaning greens, but I think this one has the perfect amount of yellow in it for me, and I love how deep it is too. It really feels like such a perfect olive green that's so iconic for fall. Not to mention, the formula is absolutely amazing. I got nearly full coverage on the first coat. I think I probably could get away with one coat if it was a little bit thicker, but I ended up just doing two just to, be safe. But yeah, this one is amazing. The next shade is Risk Takers Only, which is just described as a vibrant orange with red undertones. So this one definitely seems like an outlier in the collection because it is just so bright. But I think it can work as a pumpkin orange, maybe, if you're into that. But to me, it really does feel like a summer shade. And I know that Essie and a few other brands release their fall collections very early in the season. So I think this did work when it first came out. But yeah, I'm not super into it for the season right now. It is a really gorgeous color though. And again, it has an amazing formula. It's fully opaque in two coats for me, so I do love it, but maybe not right now. Next we have Hike It Up, which is described as a mid-tone neutral tan with yellow undertones. So I'm not sure I fully agree with calling it a mid-tone shade, and I'm actually going to talk about the description again in a couple minutes with another shade, but this one does have some yellow undertones. I think some people might think this is like a boring shade, but I actually really love shades like this for fall. It just feels like such a nice palette cleanser. And I usually gravitate towards very light neutral or beige colors or even ivories, kind of as a replacement to the classic white manicure in the summer, if that makes sense. But anyway, I really like this shade. Again, absolutely creamy formula, opaque on two coats. So yeah, this one's great. The next polish is Bold and Boulder, which first of all, I love that name, but it's described as a deep burgundy red with brown undertones. Unsurprisingly, this one is my favorite from the collection. I absolutely adore burgundy shades like this for fall, and this one is just so perfect. The brown undertones in this shade make it so rich, and the formula was just a dream. I'm not sure if it's going to be the case for everybody, but I was able to get this fully opaque in one coat. The next polish is Off the Grid, which is described as a mid-tone neutral tan with yellow undertones. And yes, that's the same exact description as Hike It Up. So I'm not sure what happened there on the website where these two were listed with the same exact description, but I think the description is supposed to be for this shade since it is more of a mid-tone neutral and the yellow undertones are much more prevalent. So like the others, this one had a great formula and I did two coats for full opacity. So I think this shade is okay. I'm not super crazy about it. I think I would have preferred a slightly deeper brown instead, since I think this one is kind of similar to Hike It Up, which I like a little bit more. And rounding out the collection is Transcend The Trend, which is described as a muted teal blue with yellow undertones. So I feel like the yellow undertones are just a common thing with this collection. So I do love that because it does make them look very cohesive, but yeah, while I do love this shade, I think it is an outlier, kind of like Risk Takers Only, since it's just so bright. But I can see it working as a transitional blue, which I love a good transitional shade. But this one had another creamy formula. I got it fully opaque in two coats. And I think if your nails were shorter and maybe if you did a thicker coat, you probably could get away with one. But yeah, this one is just such a beautiful color. So moving on to comparisons, I'm starting with Force of Nature and showing it next to NCLA Camo is the New Black, which you can see right away. It's not really a dupe, but it's the closest deep olive green that I have. The Essie is way darker and it's not nearly as dusty, and it also has a bit more of that yellow undertone, but yeah, I actually really love these two. Next, for risk takers only, I'm showing it next to my go-to red-orange shade, Orosa Clementine, and I honestly think that they're dupes. I think they're incredibly close color-wise. The main difference is the formula, where the Orosa is still a little bit sheer after 2 coats, and maybe a little bit more red. Now for Hike It Up, I'm showing it next to OMG Expose You by Lacquer, which is usually my go-to neutral beige, and these look super close in the bottle, but on the nail, you can see that they are definitely not dupes. And again, I'm not sure if that yellow undertone description was wrong about Essie, but it definitely looks a little yellowy here. Next, for Bold and Boulder, I immediately thought of Currant from last year's Olive Ave collection, which is a similar brownish berry red shade, but it's a touch dustier, I think. I also wanted to show it next to Zoya's Suzie from their Rose palette last year. And while they might look completely different in the bottle, they're pretty similar on the nail. Suzie looks the darkest and is slightly more red, so I would say Currant is a closer dupe to Essie's Bold and Boulder. It is just a touch lighter and dustier, like I mentioned, so those are the closest to dupes. All three have amazing formulas though, so I'd love to know which one you love more. Next, for Off the Grid, the closest shade that I have is Teddy from Talon Polish, which is another neutral tan shade, but this one is definitely way more neutral compared to the Essie shade, which has those yellow undertones per the description. So yeah, I think I'm more of a fan of the Talon Polish on me personally, and I thought it might be similar to Hike It Up, but it is way different. Talon looks a lot warmer. And last but certainly not least, we have Transcend The Trend. And even though I don't have anything like it in my collection, I decided to show it next to Olive Ave Cerulean, just because that one is sold out and, just to offer some comparisons. So yeah, these are definitely not dupes. Cerulean is darker and dustier, but these are still just absolutely beautiful blues. So that wraps up my swatch and review and comparisons for the Essie Off the Grid collection for fall 2022. As always, I would love to know what your thoughts are on this collection because I actually really, really love it. I know I said I wasn't super crazy about this bright orange or the brighter blue. Even though they are beautiful shades, I just wish they were a little bit deeper. Even for this one, Off the Grid, the namesake, I wish it was just a little bit more of a darker brown or less of the yellow undertones. But other than that, I really do love these shades, and across the board, the formulas are amazing. So I'm just really, really into it. And I did a recent-ish poll on my stories asking what your favorite mainstream release was so far for the season, and I'm pretty sure this collection won by a good margin. So I'm definitely interested to hear in any and all thoughts that you have down below in the comments so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!